That's unspeakable to you? What her father did to your family, that was unspeakable. What Rhaegar Targaryen did to your sister, the woman I loved.
Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. Rhaegar didn't kidnap my aunt or rape her. He loved her.
Alright, before I start, let me give you some context. About a year ago, I made a video about why Robert Baratheon was a terrible king, and the comments were colorful, to say the least. They ranged from, well yeah, duh, the sky is blue, to, well actually he's a pretty good king, you Targ simp. Anyways, in the video I briefly covered the love triangle between Lyanna Stark, Robert Baratheon, and Rhaegar Targaryen, and I pointed out that Lyanna chose Rhaegar over Robert because Robert was a womanizer, and this unleashed a hailstorm in the comment section. People commenting the equivalent of the women coffee mug emoji meme.
Women.
I tried answering this logic in the comments, but I realized that it was a lot more of a complex issue for me to answer than I thought, so I decided to make a video about it. Welcome back to Shade Cinema. My name is Chris, and today we will explore the Lyanna, Robert, and Rhaegar love triangle and reveal why Lyanna chose Rhaegar over Robert. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Anyway, let's start by introducing the characters and the situation that created the love triangle in the first place. The Targaryen dynasty had been ruling Westeros for over 250 years. Since Aegon the Conqueror, a Targaryen has sat on the Iron Throne. But Targaryen power began to wane. They no longer wielded the power of the dragons, and the rule of Aerys II, better known as the Mad King, caused a lot of instability in the realm. But there was a glimmer of hope in the bleak darkness of the Mad King's rule. Entered Rhaegar Targaryen, by all accounts a great and kind man, a talented musician and warrior, and heir to the throne of Westeros, married to the Lady of Dorne, Elia Martell. Meanwhile, there's Robert Baratheon, a larger-than-life figure who was beloved by all who knew him. He was an incredibly gifted warrior who was very passionate and had a lot of heart. And then there's Lyanna Stark, a woman of great beauty who had an independent spirit and a great sense of honor. She was wild and untamed, which makes sense considering what happens later in the story. Robert was good friends with Eddard Stark, Lyanna's older brother. Lyanna was betrothed to Robert, so they were destined to marry, but Lyanna was less enthusiastic about the idea. This all culminated at the tourney of Harrenhal, where all smiles died. So, a tournament was held at Harrenhal, hosted by Lord Walter Went. This was the biggest tournament in Westeros' history, and certainly the most historically significant. It was attended by hundreds of lords and comprised of tournaments, banquets, and parties. Even King Aerys II was there, despite his paranoia. Rhaegar defeated Sir Barristan Selmy, and he was crowned the jousting tournament winner. He was then given the crown of blue roses to give to any woman in the audience. It was sort of a declaration of love for the jouster. Usually when it is given to the winner, and the winner happens to be married, the winner is expected to give it to his wife, crowning them the Queen of Love and Beauty. It was customary and a tradition to do so. Rhaegar said, "Fuck that," and rode past Elia Martell, his wife, and gave it to Lyanna Stark instead, basically declaring his love for her. The crowd was shocked, to say the least. It was one of the biggest outrages of the time, and Brandon Stark, Lyanna's father, was especially pissed. On the other hand, Robert didn't seem too bothered by it. He laughed it off and saw it as a compliment, supposedly. I say supposedly because I don't believe that Robert wasn't bothered by what happened. Think about it. Imagine you have the love of your life, just look at her, to whom you're destined to be married, and she gets what is basically a love letter from a fucking prince who's married. Would you be like, oh yeah, that's chill, bruh? Or would you be like, what the fuck? Robert had to play it cool, or else he would have been even more embarrassed than he already was. Now, this whole ordeal didn't come out of nowhere. There has to be a backstory as to why Rhaegar chose her. One theory suggests that they met in the forest around Harrenhal and were drawn to each other's qualities, also known as the woods meeting theory. Other theories involve dreams Rhaegar had about the prince that was promised, and how a Stark girl was involved with fulfilling that prophecy. In any case, this whole ordeal, alongside Rhaegar's later quote-unquote kidnapping of Lyanna, led Brandon and Rickard Stark to King's Landing to confront the last dragon. There, they were both ultimately burned alive by the Mad King. This was the spark that began Robert's rebellion, a rebellion caused by tragic executions and some controversial cuckoldry.
Look at the pain in its eyes!
Like I said earlier, Lyanna was kidnapped by Rhaegar, and I use the term kidnapped loosely as it is unclear whether or not Lyanna went with the prince of her own volition. Either way, Robert's rebellion begins. The rebel forces make good initial gains against the Mad King's loyalists. Then they reach the Trident, where Robert Baratheon and Rhaegar Targaryen go face to face in combat. The battle is fierce, but Robert overcomes Rhaegar's defenses and strikes him down with his warhammer, which, alongside his bones, shatters Rhaegar's ruby-encrusted armor all over the river. Meanwhile, Ned Stark leads a group of 6 warriors to retrieve and rescue Lyanna at the Tower of Joy, but they must defeat Sir Arthur Dayne's group to get to her. It eventually gets down to Arthur Dayne versus 4 out of the 6 in Ned's group, and Arthur takes them all down one by one until only Ned remains. Ned survives this encounter due to some outside interference. Anyway, Ned heads up the tower where Lyanna is giving birth to a child, but she is losing a lot of blood and is on the verge of death. As it turns out, Lyanna wasn't kidnapped at all. She was actually secretly married to Rhaegar Targaryen. Rhaegar even annulled his marriage with Elia Martell, so the child born from this affair is a legitimate claimant to the throne. Lyanna was dying due to a difficult birth, and she asked Ned to protect her child. Due to that task, Ned had to hide him from Robert's wrath, so the Honorable Lord Eddard Stark decided to hide him in plain sight by proclaiming Lyanna's son, who was then named Jon Snow, as his bastard, and you know how consequential he'll become to Westeros. Robert, on the other hand, becomes quite depressed over the loss of his love, and spends many years trying to fill the void left by her through whoring around and becoming king, but even wenches and 7 kingdoms couldn't fill the hole she left behind. However, regardless of how Robert felt about her, Lyanna still chose Rhaegar over him. The reason why won't make much sense at first, but as we break it down, you'll begin to understand why. Here's why Lyanna chose Rhaegar. Before I reveal why Rhaegar was chosen, I must reveal why Robert wasn't. The main reason was that Robert was a big-time womanizer. I mean, this guy had so many hoes he would put Andrew Tate to shame.
You're fucking broke.
If Lyanna married Robert, chances are that Bobby B wouldn't have stopped fooling around with the local talent, and that would have been a very turbulent and embarrassing situation for Lyanna. It would have been a loveless affair. So it comes back to the issue everyone in that comment section had with Lyanna's logic. She leaves a man who would have been unfaithful to her to be with a married man who would have been unfaithful to his wife to be with her. On the surface, it makes no sense. It seems very much like a woman coffee mug moment. But this situation with Rhaegar was different. Although what Rhaegar did to Elia wasn't the morally right thing to do, he would have been more faithful to Lyanna than Robert would have been, meaning that Rhaegar would have been loyal to Lyanna had the two been married. Emotional safety in a relationship is very important to keep the relationship strong and healthy, and Rhaegar would have given that safety a lot more than Robert. It comes down to one of the most critical factors of a relationship, the love the two partners feel for each other. Truth be told, Lyanna didn't really love Robert. At least not nearly as much as Robert loved her, but Lyanna truly loved Rhaegar. You're probably thinking, she's still choosing a cheater who abandoned his wife. And yes, that's definitely the case. But there's one critical issue with that train of thought. You're looking at that affair from a logical and rational perspective, when love is an emotion that is illogical and irrational. Like, for example, have you ever had a friend or someone close to you who was in a bad relationship and you're thinking, why is this person still with that douche/bitch? It's because true love, no matter how toxic, irrational, or illogical, isn't something that can be thrown away or discarded. If you've seen Naruto, you know how powerful emotions like love and hate can be, and those emotions can lead to brash and poorly thought out decisions. Lyanna felt love for Rhaegar and was willing to break traditions to be with her mans. And even though in hindsight it led to thousands upon thousands of deaths and the end of Targaryen rule in Westeros, their love created one of the greatest warriors in the post-Targaryen era and perhaps in the history of Westeros, and a true candidate for the Iron Throne, even though the writers really dropped the ball on that one.
I don't want it.
Hopefully, George R.R. Martin can rectify that and fulfill the prophecy that Rhaegar risked and lost his life and his whole house for to complete the Song of Ice and Fire and become the prince that was promised. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. A while back we reached 2,500 subscribers, and I really can't thank you guys enough for that. It's truly mind-boggling to see how far we've come since the beginning. I will upload more consistently, it's just that my schedule has been chaotic over the last couple of months. I will work on more videos for you guys. If my voice sounds weird, it's because I'm sick. Also leave a comment if you guys agree or disagree with the points that I made in this video. I will read and reply to every comment. If you want to see the one good idea Joffrey Baratheon had, click the link on the right side of the screen.